Welcome, 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 beautiful, gorgeous, powerful, everyday women, women holding jobs, multiple roles, household duties, children, perhaps literally in your arms or emotionally and otherwise supporting them. Welcome to summit number 5 in the Everyday Women Summit series. This one is called Holding the Vision. Each one of these summits has been so special and so spiritually aligned with the walk in the journey. And I'm just feeling a lot of love and excitement for this particular topic, holding the vision. What are you building while you're building it? So we haven't necessarily achieved the claim and fame and cash that the internet tells us is available, but we're building it. And what are we learning and how are we growing through that process? And I've got 4 beautiful women joining me here today who are going to share their hearts, be vulnerable to the extent that they feel comfortable, to take us behind the scenes of what it looks like when we're actually building this and sort of in the waiting. So this summit is an emotional and spiritual backbone to the entire series, continuing to carry the vision of our lives when reality gets heavy, rejection happens, the industry changes, but we believe anyway. In this time together, we're going to have a collective conversation in a gathering type of environment to share truth, where us as women and you as listeners are going to sit with one another. We're not here to perform, we're not here to prove or look fancy. We are women choosing the vision while living our very real life. Okay. So, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me. There's one more thing I want to read before I hand it over to you to introduce yourselves. So, Kacy and I met 3 years ago through my other podcast. And she saw a post about this and reached out, and it was just so cool to hear from her because, I've had a lot of guests and they all touch my heart in different ways, but Kacy stayed. And one of her preamble messages to me was that she said, I love that you've continued to hold the vision. And years later, you're still in the game. I'm so inspired and impressed and excited to see you soon. And it hits deep because when we're working and when we're trying and when we're building, we sometimes forget what was to where we are and to where we're going. And so let that breathe life and hope into you and endurance into staying in the journey. Okay. We're going to share the talking. So I'm gonna welcome everybody to just go around the room and share your name and your business and kind of what your everyday life is like. And so we're not in school, so I'm going to trust that you're going to self-elect
I'll
to just,
start.
yeah, go around.
Just to kind of flow from where, you mentioned my email this morning. So my name's Kacy, and in terms of my business, it's with my husband and I. So it's a family-run business. And for the last 2 years, what we've been deep into is understanding voice AI technology. So it sounds kind of intense and maybe a little like out there, but really what it is that we, in some way or the other, are interacting with AI, whether it's, through ChatGPT, as most people know it. But nowadays, there's AI on the phone. So, like, actually answering the phones, having conversations with people. So that's where we've been kind of interested in. And we've been helping like enterprise bigger companies for the last little bit implement this. But recently, what happened was we started talking to small business owners. And something that came up was they kept missing all these calls after hours. So people would go to voicemail and they would take days to get back to them. Or they would miss really bad. So we built Bela Helps, which is a voice answering system that replaces your voicemail. Essentially, the technology part of it is mostly my husband. He's the AI engineer. For me, I'm all about relationships and understanding the intersection between humans and technology. Like, how does this help make our lives better? How can we, as moms, as leaders, as grandparents, like people with not that much time living full lives. How can we use this to make our lives a little bit easier, not necessarily replace us? So that's been kind of an interesting part of my life over the last couple of years. I came from a coaching background, so to transition into relationships with technology and people and small business is kind of like natural and fun. And I just love building with my husband, so we just are all about that. Um, and specifically in terms of how my life looks right now, well, 5 months ago, I had a baby,
Yeah.
my firstborn little daughter. She's, yeah, 5 months old now. So honestly, like life has been crazy and beautiful and challenging all at the same time.
Mhm.
I didn't know I could be this sleep deprived, but also be this excited about my vision,
Yeah.
like getting on calls, talking to people, doing all these things, but also in between breastfeeding,
Mhm.
hanging out with my baby, with my husband, changing diapers, cleaning the kitchen, like all of that. And I'm excited to get into all the behind the scenes of what that looks like because it's kind of crazy. And honestly, because we're being totally vulnerable, I had so many doubts about like even being on here today. Because I'm like, 2 hours, like, how's that going to work? Like, is it going to be okay? And then also, funny enough, Mia, when I saw your post,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I'll attend. I literally thought it was like a
Yeah.
live summit. I was like, I'll be in the audience and I'll just like watch and it'll be cool. And then you're like, oh yeah, it's the speakers. And I looked at my husband and I'm like, shit, I'm gonna like be talking on this thing. It's been years since I've been like front facing.
Oh,
So, anyways, I value the opportunity and I'm excited and also like nervous because it's been a while since I've been people facing, so to speak. I've been kind of building in the dark for the last couple of years. So this is my first like breakthrough opportunity to get back into it, so to speak. So thank you.
that's beautiful. I'm honored. And yes, watch out. I'm sneaky.
Yes, very.
Oh,
I'll do.
that's funny. This summit round just kind of snowballed near the end because I've been going through some very heavy cleansing,
Mhm.
spiritual surgery. And so yeah, it's just funny. I'm like, I don't want to promote this big energy draining every like 100 people attend thing. I just want to have the conversation with some cool people. So that's super wonderful and very interesting stuff, Kacy. I'm already thinking of like follow-ons, people to introduce you to,
Love
etc.
it.
after.
Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, welcome and welcome back. Who would like to go next?
I'd like to go next because I can feed on to what Kacy just said, is I got the invitation to be part of this, and I did at least recognize I was going to be one of the speakers. But what I didn't recognize until after I clicked the link to get in is like, oh, you included a whole nice sheet, a whole nice description of what to expect and what's going on that I didn't know was there, didn't pay any attention to, and read in the intro while we were all getting to know each other. It's like, oh, this is why I'm here. So I was just kind of coming in blind. But anyway, I am Sherry McClurkin. I am physically residing in Tucson, Arizona, but work virtually. So I work throughout the world in a sense. Although I am not a morning person, so
Mhm.
time zones matter. And what I do is I'm a Christian life coach, speaker, and author. Right now, I'm kind of going by I don't really have a company name as such, but what I'm drawn to is I'm working under what's called the undivided woman
Mhm.
and estrangement. Estrangement does not define her because God has a tendency to put me kind of through, in a sense, the things that I am going to help people with.
Yeah.
And He equips me along the way of how to successfully, in a sense, if you will, navigate whatever I'm going through so that I can then share it with others. So at this point, and it's morphed and morphed and morphed. So at this point, when I say at this point, I mean like if you had asked me a year ago, it was not this. So
Okay.
at this point, it's those women of faith who are considering estrangement or are in estrangement, and it doesn't matter whether you're the one who kind of walked away, or if you're the one who was kind of left behind. I get both sides of that. I can help you through both sides of that. And what I love about this topic is it opens up so many huge questions, and particularly for women of faith, because like Can I be a Christian and can I be and estranged at the same time? How do I honor my parents if I'm estranged from them, if that's who you are estranged from? And what I also really love about this is that it goes really down into identity, because breaking away, we don't call it estrangement unless you're breaking away from something that was foundational for you. So it's a church, or it's a close community, or it's family, or it's a friend you've had for 40 years. It's foundational to you. That's when we call it estrangement. Otherwise, we just call it a broken relationship and you walk away. I mean, or we call it a divorce and you walk away, right? It's estrangement is very different. Mm-hmm. And estrangement occurs because things have happened over and over in lots of different ways, but kind of the same way, over an extended period of time.
Without repair.
Yeah, without repair. Thank you. Yes, without repair, without the other side understanding that repair is necessary and needed, and that there's real harm done. Or in my case, I honestly didn't recognize, because I was so in the system. It was my family. Right. I didn't recognize how deeply I was ingrained into this. And literally until last year, I'm 65 years old, until last year, when it was suddenly like, oh my gosh, right. That answers so many questions for me. Wow. And then when I was sitting here just a little while ago as Kacy was talking, and I recognized this literally just came to me as we're talking, that the pattern of my life that I'm only now really breaking is me trying to fit into other people's molds of me. Yeah. And I just didn't know any better. Yeah. And I'm literally like tears, like this is so profound for me. This is a really new thought. And things have happened this week in particular, and this is one of them, that have been deeply impactful for me in an incredibly revealing, God-centered way. So I am so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. You just have no idea how important this is.
Well, amen, sister. And I completely relate, because he's working me over hard with clarifying my reality versus what I hope reality is. Right. And absolutely, that square peg living in a round hole, I relate to quite deeply. And it's shattering when you start to wake up in that and see something that is not what you think, which I think will tie in nicely to the overall conversation of holding the vision too, and the evolution that we go through in business and in life as women and matriarchs in the household. Evolving that. Maybe Meg, you want to jump in and pick up off that, because your story has definitely been like multiple 180s at once.
So my name is Meg. I am currently in northwestern Pennsylvania. I grew up on the West Coast in California. I've only been here for a few years, but Sherry, just touching back and circling back on that, my whole transformation story is spending 40 years trying to fit that mold, not getting the help, not doing what I wanted, all of the things, like finally leaving very abusive patterns, but still not getting the help, until I literally drank myself to almost death. I was in the ICU in liver failure and came out and was like, all right, God, it's all you. Like, I'm giving you everything. What can we make happen? And 5.5 years later, I'm looking back and going, holy cow, like he's taken me so much back to the roots, and to the point of like where you were talking about identity. Like, I'm right now developing a freebie for people called Remember Her, so that to help guide them back to, it's not creating a new woman, it's getting back to the woman that he had planned for us all along, before the world convinced us we needed to fit this mold, right? And the tasks took over, and the roles and responsibilities that the world says that's who we are. That's not what we do, right? Those are things that we do. It's not who we are inside our souls. And it took me a long time and literally almost dying to learn those steps. But I'm so grateful that he has taken me through that transformation and through such the deep levels of peeling back the layers and healing and sobriety and like all of the things, picking
Yeah,
me up and
that's
moving me clear across the country to do stuff. So a little bit about my business. I have pivoted in the last year and a half or so into a faith-based transformational coach, right? My ultimate mission from God is to help women realize there's freedom on the other side of healing. And I do that in several different ways. We host retreats. I'm the faith and wellness director to a nonprofit for a women's healing program. We run a soup kitchen. I do health coaching. Like there's several umbrellas under that big ultimate mission that he's given me. But really, if just every single woman realized the freedom that comes from healing and surrendering it to him and just like, okay, I'm going to break out of this worldly mold and find who you actually called me to be. Like, if I can help every woman I come in contact realize that, then I'm doing what he's asked me to do.
And in Meg's day to day, it varies from dealing with a brand new puppy into
Yes.
and a toddler dog and an old grumpy dog and some
Yes.
chickens and some gardening and homegrown food for the
Yes.
community
And
kitchen and
so
funding
I
grants and
yeah, I'm all over the place, but I do have two grown children. Well, I say grown. They don't live at home anymore, but they're 21 and 23. So I'm not quite sure if we call that grown yet, but they are out in the world doing their things. One is in Portland, Oregon, and one is in Alaska. And I'm very happily married. I do live on a little homestead, so I have lots of chickens, and I have a 3-year-old nephew that is like the apple of my eye, and he's over all the time. So yeah, like, and between the kitchen and the farm and all of the stuff, I went from this very um dominating presence where I was like the CEO and this of all, like, corporate world and the high heels and the bags and all this. And now I'm like in the muck boots and trudging through the snow to feed chickens and doing all the things and the dirt. And I absolutely love it because that's who he wanted me to be all along.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right, Tennille.
Yes, I'll go next and last. I'm Tennille Martinez. I am the podcast host of The Living Story. I'm also a writer on Substack called Middle of the Story, and you're going to see what the through line that comes through it. And it's a faith-based podcast where I talk about how the healing and impact that I've had from becoming, I would say, born again Christian. I got baptized last year and I have been on fire. Like, it's serious. So just to touch upon that, that's what I do at night.
Mm-hmm.
During the day, I am a middle school teacher, 6th and 8th grade, and computer tech teacher. So Kacy, when you were talking about AI, I was like, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Perks up my ears. And transformation and identity from both Sherry and Meg. Same thing I talk about, because I was able from the transformation, and that's what I talk about on the podcast, is the transformation that I underwent because of my dedication to the Lord. So what I talk about on my podcast and the story that started, this all ramped up right after my baptism podcast came. I got the job as a tech teacher because before that I was a language arts teacher, involved in love stories, loved my job, but the pressure was serious. And when you're in Florida, everything is based on a score. So I love teaching children, but the pressure was on, and I still miss it. I miss the literature part. I miss the story part. So this is where the story comes in. I'm no longer teaching it, but now I'm using it. Everything that I've acquired in my 20 plus years of teaching,
Wow.
Yes, 24th year
Wow.
teaching. I now use in the podcast, I use as my healing. So it centers around story, the stories we say to ourselves, the stories that we have on loop, that we are not qualified, that we're not worthy, that we're not loved, that we're not chosen. And it continues. And we take that story, and it's a story that Meg, when she was talking about the girl from way back when, before all of this happened, it's the story that we carry along to other relationships, to new jobs, to our next phase in life. And what my podcast talks about and what Substack shares within my writing is the stories, healing those stories, transforming those stories, not only because we tell ourselves, but and I forgot to bring my Bible, I left it over there, what the Bible says about us. And the truth that God has said about us. And that is something that I learned throughout my healing because I needed to know that. And I could hear it. I can logically understand it, but it was here that I needed to internalize it and to change, to make those transformations of healing. So I didn't know that I was doing the work of coaching and mentoring. Well, I did know because when you're a teacher, you're encountering all kinds of different situations every 55 minutes. I had 180 plus students this year.
Wow.
So some of them found my podcast and would listen, and they're like, why do you love Jesus so much? And I'll tell you, middle school, you have to have thick skin, because I had one student tell me, were you around when Jesus was here? Talking about my age.
Yeah.
So, you just smile and you're like, oh, God bless you. You are one of God's children. So it's like I do that work because I remember being that middle school girl, feeling all in my feelings, feeling that no one loved me, no one looked at me, no one appreciated me, no one valued me. So I continue to do this work, not only on the podcast, but I've been doing it forever as a teacher and now through my writing.
Yeah, beautiful. And you have children at home still?
I do not, single.
Okay.
And I forgot to say the whole reason why I started the healing process was the person that took me to my church now, and I love my church, love my pastor, was the same person who broke up with me a week before the baptism. Well, no, a week after the baptism. So I had to process all of that, which took months of healing, months. And I was writing, Bible study, processing all of this hurt, have a mentor at church, and I'm slowly, and right now I'm in a series called I Never Got My Why, because I didn't. And I will continually ask why. And it was until I got to bridge to the for what, which is what I'm talking about now. I'm on episode 4. There's 10 parts. When I got to the for what, that I was able to see, even though this hurt me, it didn't break me, because God took me through this process to get me where he needs me, which is here.
Amen.
Yeah. Why is a dangerous question. And instead now it becomes how. How will this be used rather than why is this happening? It also kind of shifts us out of victim mentality. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. And you may not get your why. So I'm really excited to venture into that series and hear what that looks like, because our brains want to understand and find a solution and fix a problem.
Yes.
And sometimes that's not the point. It's deeper than that. So if you don't mind, I'll kind of interject a little bit and just introduce my framework, because it kind of, for me, deeply captures this. So folks who don't know me yet, me and Frankl living on Vancouver Island in the Pacific Northwest of Canada, and I run my business between 5 and 7 a.m. Monday to Friday-ish. And then I wake up my daughter and I get her to the school bus. And then I go to work and I do bylaw complaints in Canada, ordinances in the States, but when neighbors complain about each other. and it's so nice. And I help them sort themselves out. But sometimes there's a lot of conflict and a lot of even borderline abuse, entitlement, that comes out. But I've been doing that for 13 years, and I am really fantastic with people. But I took the day off yesterday because it was just too much between the attitudes of people at work and some stuff that I'm going through at home. I just needed a break, and I had a beautiful break, and that was great. When I finish my workday, I go and pick up my daughter, and then we're either running to activities. We don't have a lot. We're not super crazy that way. Balance, pretty good. And then evenings are for family. Now, it used to be work, 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 work. And, I thought that was the way to do it. And it took a lot of clarifying and decluttering to get into a system that I have now. In my business, I life coach, I podcast, I contribute to books every once in a while. I buy spots into visibility. So, ladies, if you see somebody on the cover of a magazine, they bought the spot, okay? And you can too. I just paid $75 to be on a front cover of a magazine and have a 4-page feature inside. So, I mean, it's going to look fancy when it comes out, but like the behind the scenes of it is very accessible. And we'll see what kind of visibility comes with that or not. But these are the things that I'm doing in the small pockets of my time. And the really beautiful shift in this is that, and the theme of this particular conversation today is building it slow and steady over time. Slow and steady over time. I was in a rush. I made so many mistakes. I burnt out. I burned relationships. I wasn't living in the true alignment of myself. Like Sherry's saying, square peg, round hole. You can get estranged from yourself in trying to create or become or gain out of business, etc. And at 44 years of age, I'm kind of like cleaning that up now. And it sucks, but it's awesome. At the same time, it sucks, right? But as a woman of faith, it's so much easier. I just can't imagine doing it without Jesus. And so, two things I want to just drop lightly is my coaching framework is based around 4 pillars: spiritual, heart, emotional, and body, in a synchronistic system that works together. So spiritual intelligence is remaining connected to meaning and calling, even when results are unclear. We're going to go through a lot of that in today's conversation and the evolution of where we are. When Kacy and I met 3 years ago, I was still more online business manager, and now I'm more life coachy, woman of service labels. But the business model has evolved. Sherry's mentioned, we've all gone through these evolutions, and I'm still working, and I still want to keep my job. I actually don't want to hurry up and quit like the internet was telling me. I don't always love my job, but I work in a very, very healthy workplace, and it is fantastic to be there and to be contributing and collaborating with the people I work with. The heart intelligence. So that, and in that we see God's working. He's like, dude, stop running into the wall. You're supposed to turn. I got you where I want you. Oh, so stubborn. And then in that we have the heart intelligence. Oh. Sherry, this one will probably really speak with your lived experience and the previous versions of ourselves, but staying open and tender and brave, but also knowing when enough is enough, right? So we love with an open but not unprotected heart, and applying that unconditional love in all elements of our life. I could complain for days about some of the residents I have to deal with, but instead to pray and love them anyway and grow from it and protect myself from saying that's their journey, not mine. So let them have their journey. Dignity to others and dignity to ourselves. Okay. And then emotional intelligence, holding disappointment without abandoning yourself. Man, oh man, the amount of times that I spin out over something is exhausting. And so instead, maturing my emotions and having them. And a classic example, we'll do a sensational announcement in this podcast episode. I was blessed with being asked to life coach on a women's luxury vacation to the continent of Africa. And I had the best time ever, but the women did not enjoy me. The women on the trip did not enjoy me as a coach or as a person. Fine, fine. It was hard to receive that feedback. I knew there's a whole other side that is going to be shared. I'm not going to hide or like hide away from that. But in emotional intelligence is holding that disappointment without letting it derail me, like Tennille was saying, right? Without completely losing sight of who I am. Do I like everybody in the world? No. Is everybody in the world going to like me? No. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, whirlwind. So a core pillar, having your feelings without becoming them. Aside from some like grief and others, there's always nuances. There's no finalities around this stuff. And then all put together in the pillar of the body. So the body is the container. The body is where everything holds. The body is where spirit lives. The body is where emotions, the body is where cellular patterns that came when we left the womb start to come. It's all there. And dancing in synchronicity with your body and giving your body deep soul rest so that spirit can expand makes all these things easier, makes it how on earth I have no idea I do all the things that I do and still look this good and still go to bed at a decent time and still laugh and can show up and produce and etc. because I take care. Yesterday, part of my day was going for a bike ride. I love to ride my bike. I teach cycling skills. There's a whole part of me over there. And I just went for a joyful bike ride before picking up my daughter from school. And it was delightful. Soul rest, soul food, right? For the body. It was so good. Okay. So those are the core 4 pillars, and we'll see how, there's lots available in there. And as you converse, I welcome in your styles and your belief systems and anchor points to be part of the conversation. The one last thing that I want to share to help set the scene, because it was so impactful for me, is a quick little story about Sarah Blakely, the CEO and founder of Spanx women's garments. Okay, now we could get lost in the idea of vanity, etc., but we're not going to, because Sarah stuck with me, and she, to me, is such an exquisite example of holding the vision and believing it so much no matter what. And here's why. I saw a post of hers. She was just a kid. She was like late teens, early 20s with a poster board. And it was the business model and the idea on like literally cardstock, kindergarten, grade 1 poster board from the dollar store with her business vision. And there she is. So keen. So yes. And then the next picture is in the future, our present now. And it's her standing in front of her building with Spanx, built like New York, skyscraper, giant building. I don't know if she owns it, if it's the whole business, whatever. And then Spanx logo on the outside. And it just blows my mind. And it is so beautiful, because what I took from that was, is it worth it no matter how long it takes? And this is the piece that's given me that spiritual freedom, where now I'm not like as frenetically crazy and in survival mode to create a sustainable business and second source of income. I'm enjoying the process and I'm paying my dues one day at a time. That's going to get me to my vision. It's probably not the same as Sarah's, but it's mine. And it is beautiful and it is meaningful. Sarah was on her way to an event when she cut the feet off of a pair of pantyhose. And this is where the idea was born. Sarah went on a talk show with Terry Garr, who, if you know, is a super adorable, like 90s-ish actress, super adorable, sweet, down to earth. And they had to guess what Sarah's product was. And Terry got the closest to guessing. And Sarah was still a young nobody, right? She got rejected. She couldn't get financing. She made t-shirts for her friends to wear. She was steadfast in that vision. She's just been invited, indoctrinated into some fancy inventors club museum honor thing. I don't mean to downplay it. It's like a beautiful, incredible award that she's won and recognition. But she started with $5,000 and spent 2 years building that. And she got rejected over and over. And people would be like, I don't think so. She was running, there's pictures that she shared from back in the day, running these almost like call centers with her friends to try and get this thing going, right? And she held the belief before there was evidence. She refused to let go of something she knew that mattered. And look at where she is now. And look at how much she can do with all of that. Now, we may come in different sizes and scales and dreams and abilities and capacity, etc. But each one of us has something to deliver that's greater than us, that will swirl around and create this impact. Already, we've seen Kacy and Tennille, zoop, finding new connections. And that's why it's important to show up when it's unseen. You have to hold steadfast. So let's dive into that now as a round table, as a connective conversation, starting with the questions of what is the vision that you continue choosing, even while living a very full and a very real life.
I think for me, the vision has always been, however shape it took in my life, has always been like to be authentic to me, to myself, first and foremost, and then to like my family. And it's so interesting how everyone here came together for a reason. Because I'm like listening and I'm like, wow, my heart is so full and it like hurts at the same time. Do you know what I mean? When like you're hearing stories and connections where there's so much depth. Um, and specifically, just to kind of share a little bit more authentically about my journey, is the past several years, I was a life coach. And that from when I was like early, like teens to, my 20s, even early 30s, it's like I just kept coaching people and serving them. And I had a whole business where I helped people move from their head to their hearts. And what happened a couple years ago was I realized that I'm like, well, am I doing that for myself? And I got so wrapped up in the service of others that I forgot, what do I need? And then doing even more deeper work, I realized, well, like why did I pursue coaching in the first place? And again, this is, just my authentic stories. You guys are all coaches. We're all coaches in one way or the other. But just specifically, I was like, well, why do I feel called to this? And is it something I'm doing from trauma? Because I had to keep doing it as a child because I was in such uncertain circumstances that I had to almost like try to help everybody and fawn to then be able to be okay with the environment. And so it was very interesting as I like dove into that in like 20, like literally after we spoke, Mia. It was like spiritual surgery, like everything kind of came to a front. And interesting that you're here, Sherry, because my husband and I have been estranged from our family for the last couple of years. Because there was a lot of stuff that we realized we needed to heal to be better parents if we wanted to have children, if we wanted to have a healthy marriage. There were things that we saw and encountered within our own families that, again, it's not necessarily bad or wrong. It's like everyone has their own choices and ways that they choose to move through life. But as adults, I feel like now we have a choice of how do we interact with that? How do we, you know, Jenga, so to speak? What do we allow? What do we not allow? What are the boundaries? What are not, right? And we made a really clear decision that the life that we wanted to live was not going to be supported in this way by the people that were our birth families. And that was really hard. Like that was not easy. And it wasn't a overnight. It took years and years and years to get to a point where it's like too much.
Yeah.
And literally, Jesus led us across the country. We moved to Alberta. We drove for 6 days last February
Mhm.
in the winter.
Mhm.
Only hit one snowstorm and we were fine.
Mhm.
And a month after we got to Alberta, we got pregnant. I had been trying for 2 years, but it was only after we made the decision and followed the guidance to say, we need to strip ourselves of everything that is essentially holding us back. And as hard as it was, that was our family. And that's like not the first place that people look, right? It's like all the other places. And then sometimes life calls you to really face the hard things and the hard truths. So all that to say, it's like even through that, like motherhood, sorry, getting emotional, but like
Yeah.
motherhood without like having your mother. That's
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
It's true.
It is.
because holding the vision means like I need to be authentic for my daughter, for my husband, for my family. And so like, sorry. So really, ultimately, it's like even in those circumstances where we think, where I thought that, well, this is just how it needs to be. I had this pretty picture vision painted of how my life is going to look. It was like, it looks nothing like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But in actuality, it's the most authentic version of me. And now it's like the coaching, those skill sets, all that I can like I use in my daily life with my family.
Mhm.
And then I use it in my business that then supports my family. So ultimately, it's so interesting because in order to actually like bring my own family into the world, I had to disconnect from the family I was born into.
Mhm.
And you know, I'm not close to the possibility of reconnecting, but it's like, who do I need to show up for myself as so that I can ultimately be that person for my daughter, for my husband, for the world, and first and foremost for myself, right? And so this is why this is such a big deal for me is like after years of like being front facing, like talking to people, being like the podcaster, you know, interviewing, doing all that stuff. It's like I went completely dark for several years because I'm like, well, what am I doing? And what's the intention here, right? So I hope that all made sense. I just
Well,
want to be as aligned.
what I hear from that is the vision is a feeling, and the vision is the purpose that you were made for when you were in the womb, right? And what do we do when we get out in the real world? We start chasing it around and trying to find it externally. And like Meg was saying, it's always been there inside. And I really feel that pain and the grief over the mother-daughter fragmentation between you and your mom. I I've had to completely redefine the relationship with my mom too. She's not, yeah, and we're not having the mother-daughter granddaughter experience that I'd hoped for either. And it's the only way forward is with that faith because you can't make sense of it with why, right? And so thank you for just letting that out and sharing that with us and being very real. So yeah, vision as a feeling that's not going to be necessarily what we started out with. But the clarity comes because you get freedom of self as a result of that. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, Paula's here, so let's bring her in. And we'll just catch her up to speed on where we're at and keep going.
Can I just say something to Kacy real fast
Yes,
while
please.
you're letting Paula in? So, Kacy, I just wanted to touch like one of the sayings that God has really laid on my heart through my journey is when a woman heals, she's healing generations, right? So that healing that you're doing to take that step back, to be that better mom, like the ripple effect it's going to have for your daughter and her daughter. And like, it just, I'm getting choked up because it's so beautiful the way God has that aligned, right? Those generational chains that you are breaking off and saying no more. Like, I am changing it right here. So the future is going to be like, can you imagine what your daughter is going to go out and do in this world because you were brave? It's gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, when she was born, I kept just being with her and looking at her and like crying because I'm like, wow, like what kind of a life does she get to live where like she gets to experience her mom and dad like loving each other in a healthy relationship, conscious that took us like a decade to get to that point where then we were like, okay, we can finally have children because we're ready. And I know that actually I thought I was ready, but you're never really ready. But to do the work to get to that point where it's a conscious intention as opposed to just, like, I guess this is just how it is. I guess I'm just passing along the trauma. And even now, it's like things come up, but we have the kind of love that we can like speak it out loud and say, hey, that doesn't work. Where is that coming from? Like, how can I support you? And so that's parenting at a different level that like we had to step away from our families because that wasn't the case. And it was like hindering our growth as people. And since then, it's like our business has boomed, our love has gotten better. We finally have a baby. Like there's so much that came from it, but there's still an underlying like grief, right? So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, Meg. That's really, I really appreciate that acknowledgement.
Beautiful. Okay, so Paula's joined us. Paula's in my world. If you don't already know her, get to know her. She's super awesome. She is the reason that I became a published author because she's a collaborating queen with a big heart for service down in Texas. And I hang out with her near weekly. She's a big part of my life and heart these days. Also met her on a podcast, recorded our first episode in my in-laws' basement. Yes, it's a multifaceted pod. So, Paula, we're just starting into our questions. What is the vision you continue choosing while living a very full, very real life? So, whoever wants to go next.
I am in awe. Seriously, I am in awe of, I'm 65, and I am in awe of you all who are much younger than I am, that you already have a vision. I have not had a vision for most of my life. Christ didn't grab me until I was 38 years old. So I had a lot of stuff, and I grew up in an alcoholic family. So there was a lot of baggage, lots of baggage for me to work through. And I am so incredibly grateful for being able to work through. I started in the IT world. Then when Christ grabbed me, it took a little while, but moved me into going back to college. I failed out of college in my 20s, going back to college at 48, getting finishing my bachelor's, getting a master's degree, graduating with that at 52, getting into being a therapist, got the whole license and everything. And through all of that, I was also in therapy myself, getting lots of help. And then any good therapist, and I was a really good therapist. God blessed me very well with, I've got lots of it because of my background too, but you have kind of that radar when you grow up in like a messy situation, like an alcoholic family, you kind of have a radar for other people's emotions and what's going on. And God showed me how to use that effectively. But it's really only been honestly, in the past 6 months that really my vision has become clear. My vision all along was I always had a heart for helping people. I didn't want anyone to suffer the way I'd been suffering. And at first it was aimed at kids. So when Christ got into my life and I got into a church, I was attracted to the children's ministry. So I did a whole bunch of stuff, just loving on kids, make sure they know that they were loved by Christ and all of that. And would spend time with the kids that were in my family. I don't have any, I did not raise any or birth any children myself. I've helped a lot with raising kids. And I have 2 permanent toddlers right now in the form of dogs.
Yeah.
So So in a sense, while I'm not, I call myself a non-traditional mom. So I've been a spiritual mom. I've been, a psychological mom. I've been the helping mom and now I'm a dog mom. So what God revealed to me like just a couple months ago is my mission. My mission is truth teller, and that is something that I've always done. I just call it out. But before Christ was in my life, and for quite a while afterwards, as I was working through stuff, when I called it out, it was not very pretty in the way I called it out. It wasn't very well received because it wasn't very warm and it wasn't very compassionate, and it was still truth, but it was not delivered in a way where the other could maybe even partially take it in. And that's probably one of a facet of why I'm also why I went through a divorce. So I was married for in that relationship for almost 30 years, a significant part of my adulthood, and have been single since then. So I've been single for over 10 years. I've been living as a single woman, single older woman, completely on my own, completely supporting or semi-supporting myself, because I also went through a whole set of, and still am in a financial, what would you call that? A financial valley, a financial deficit. There's the word I'm trying to get to, is deficit, a financial deficit. I went through a bankruptcy, all the things, and so when it comes to the vision of Christ, of part of the vision is holding on, holding on for dear life, like that has been. I could not have made it. You said this earlier, Mia. I was like, I could not have made it. I would be in a ball, sobbing in the corner under the covers, 24/7, if it wasn't for Christ. That I can sit here and say, yeah, I'm in a financial deficit. That I can sit here and give all those details and talk, yeah, I'm estranged from my mom, and not be a mess. That is so Christ. I am a truth teller. I see things differently than so many other people, and I have had to learn. I that goes along with the vision all along. If kind of a mission, I feel it's more mission than vision. That wanting people to live a better life than I lived, wanting kids, starting with kids, and then I switched to adults. As I was a therapist, I never worked with kids as a therapist because the parents annoyed me.
So it sounds like you're willing to go through and grow through the journey in order, to be able to continue to fulfill your heart's desires, which is love and nurturing of other hurting people and helping them heal and restore that.
That has been consistent. Yes. It's just once Christ came into my life and I got the help I needed, then it became more of a path instead of a ping ponging all over the place.
And do you find you can anchor into that regardless of what the money's doing, but there's means and opportunities for that true self to exist and to serve his purpose for you while these other earthly things are kind of doing their wonky stuff around us.
Yeah, it's my goal that I strive. I know we don't always like that word strive, but my goal every day, every moment of every day is, okay, God, is this the priority? Am I in the path? Is this where you want me to be right now? And other people are like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And it takes practice because I don't always get it right. I have to kind of evaluate that. I know from a human perspective that makes sense, but that is going to take me away from where God wants me to be. And I want to be where God is. I want to be where God is. not what makes sense human wise.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things, and I agree, from a human perspective, that makes sense. I mean, I've been told, well, actually, I'm not going to go down that road. I take that back. There's lots of things people have said to me is like, well, you just need this, you just need this, you just need this. And I'm like, yeah, but God's not calling me to that. And so that's part of staying in vision, mission, purpose.
That's right. Clarity.
Is constant evaluation. And it is a constant evaluation because we're inundated with all sorts of opportunity. We have huge opportunities to do this, that, and the other. People pushing us in one direction or another. And as I said earlier, it's been my goal. I mean, I can see in my life where I have constantly tried to fit myself into a mold that somebody else had for me, not God.
Yeah.
And it's just more recently where I'm able to say, I don't fit that mold. That's not where God wants me to be.
Thank you. Yeah, the willingness to be on a journey, even if the vision isn't clear, can bring it forward over time, right? And Sherry, I just want to come back that you kind of mentioned the age thing, but you know, it's one, it's never too late, and two, we need versions of ourselves at all stages of life. And so it's a very honorable role for you to be an example to somebody else at this stage, more relatable. I was by far the youngest on my safari, and you know, there was like 30 years in some cases of difference, which, as beautiful a heart as someone may have, can make something very unrelatable. So yeah, it's important to recognize that the step of our journey is on purpose and is being used for good. Beautiful. All right, thank you. So yes, the vision you continue choosing while living a very full real life. Tennille looks like she wants to talk.
I'm looking, I'm like, who's gonna jump in?
Teacher gives you permission.
I have a face that gives away what I'm thinking all the time. And I'm thinking of a colleague that I had, because he's no longer working at my school. He gave me a lanyard connection where it says, if my mouth is not saying it, my face is. And that's total problem. So when we talk about vision, I just want to touch upon, before I get into my story, Kacy, when you were speaking about your family, my gosh, it's absolutely beautiful, because if you take a look at the stories in the Bible, when we listen to God, that's when things start to fall into place. And when you said you got pregnant and things are just like on the up and up, absolutely beautiful, because scripture shows us that if we follow his calling, it's not going to be great all the time, but if we do follow with his direction, he's going to take us there. He's going to make sure to provide, make sure that your family might be estranged right now. Who knows, 10 years from now, it could be totally different, especially if you put it into prayer. It could be totally different, or not.
Yeah.
But
just trusting, right?
Yes. But the person who's in charge is the one that's in charge of our story. And I'll come back to that in a moment. And Sherry, when you said you were admiring us for for knowing our vision, or having it that Jesus gave it to you at this stage of your life. If we take a look back into scripture, Abraham and Sarai, or Sarah, now they had a child well within their elder years. So Jesus was always there. God was always there. He's always been in your story. And you were supposed to do this at this time, not before. Not in your 40s, not in your 20s. You were supposed to do this now. And this is where my vision my mission in my life. I grew up in a Dominican and Puerto Rican household in South Florida. I have never felt like I belonged, that I was part of, even within my family. I was the nerd. I was always the one reading books. And I would get punished because I wouldn't do my chores and I would be in the room reading, and my mom would like yell at me, like, "Oh, do the dishes." And I'm like, "Can I finish this? Finish the chapter?" Like, seriously, got in trouble for reading. But mom was stressed out. I understand now, being an adult, what she was carrying at that age, I didn't understand. And I always had that compelling and amazing love for story, an amazing passion for writing. I would write stories and I would read it to my mom. And my poor mom, I think back of a story and I was like, "Oh, I remember writing that story." And she told me what it was. And I was like, "Oh, that's horrible. And you sat through that? I love you, Mom. Thank you for being there and for supporting me." And even to the extent, I think it was 3 or 4 years old, I committed a crime. And I talk about this in like my first iterations of the podcast. And we were in a store and I took a book. I didn't tell my mom. I just found this book and I put it under my arm and I kept walking, walked out of that store, walked into the mall. We walked all the way to the car. My mom noticed this. She goes, "Where'd you get that?" And I said, "Mine." And she's like, "Where did you pick that up?" And she's like, "Oh my God, that was from the store." She couldn't remember what store, but I had a new book and it was mine. I claimed it and I took it. So that love and passion has always been there. So from the womb, that has been my love. Stories, books, teaching. And when I was a little kid, I would line up all my dolls, Cabbage Patches and all, and would teach. I would get my cousins and teach them. And they're like, "We want to ride bike." "No, we got to learn. Let's read." And again, the only one who wanted to do this kind of stuff, I would check out books to them. And they're like, "Oh, can we like not?" So that from a young age to then wanting to start a business, I would do car washes in the Florida heat. Like, why? Because I wanted to make money. I think I did that for maybe 1 weekend, maybe two, and that was it. We were done. So that compelling love from a young age of wanting to do this was the vision that I had for myself. And I knew of God. I just didn't have a relationship with him until last year. He's always been present. Not that I've been perfect, because when Sherry, you said that your mouth, yeah, me too. God has done a number on me, like, oh, he has worked miracles with me in this mouth. So when I started teaching, got into teaching. I hated it. I didn't want to be a teacher. Yes, I did, but I just didn't. For me, I didn't have the right support. I didn't have the right. I think I didn't heal a lot of things before going into teaching that I needed to heal in order to work with high school students. Because I started with that when I don't think I was 20 something, and they were high school students. Yeah. So they looked my age. Yeah. But I learned to love it. And from there, I became a coach. I was a coach for 11 years. So working with teachers to better their instructions to reach students. And then from there, I had 1 year as an administrator at an alternative school. Thank you for the experience. Went back to teaching, went back to coaching and teaching because of that. It was bad. I wasn't doing what I love, which was to support the student where they were. I was just dealing with discipline cases and paperwork. And I like that, but not just to focus.
Not as hands-on.
Exactly. Yeah. So fast forward, I needed a side hustle because, teachers, we earned a lot of money and I had a free time on my hands. And far from that. So I started a side hustle, started as a social media virtual assistant, niche down to Pinterest, marketing management. I did that for a few years. And trust me, this all has a story because it's just a line and the story that we carry. And I had to stop because COVID happened. I couldn't sit at my computer for another 4 or 5 hours to work on the side hustle because I was already sitting in front of the computer for 8 hours teaching. And then when they brought us into schools, I was sitting in front of my computer for 7.5 hours with kids in the room, teaching kids in the room, teaching kids online. So something had to come to a close. Then I started a few years later, because the bug never stops. The vision is there and you don't have words for it, but it just continues to follow you as you progress. I was like, oh, that's over. I'm not doing that anymore. Says you. But the plan is totally different. And as I started a podcast, it was called The Book Advantage, talking about the power of books because, somebody has an issue back here, has always had it. So the power of books started, and I talked about the stories, the compelling, how they teach us, how they do everything. That then changed to Teach, Hustle, Grow because I wasn't getting what I wanted to, which was like the downloads. Nothing was happening. It was like more of a hobby, and I was like, okay, this isn't working.
Right.
Went
So
this
your
route.
vision's evolving over
Oh yeah,
time, right?
and that is
Yeah.
just it
But the
goes.
desire to continue to find out where it's going to take you stayed.
Yes,
Yeah.
it stayed.
Yeah.
So the podcast evolves to Teach, Hustle, Grow, which is that started to get traction because I'm talking to teachers and how to start a side hustle. Then I have a car accident, a bad car accident where I couldn't write. And it was towards like the end of the school year, and everything was shattered. Like there were issues in family. Now my job, I couldn't do my job the way I was. And that is where the transformation really begins because I had stopped dating. I had stopped living. I had stopped doing a lot of things. I was just existing. And from that point of existing, that accident forces me to sit and be with not even God. God was there, but sit with myself and really think about what I wanted for my life. So I was like, okay, I need to get back out there. So I start dating. I meet Mr. Podcast is on hold. Like podcast was done because I meet Mr. He takes me to his church, and this is last year. Takes me to his church. Things are looking promising, not so promising, relationships. And then all of a sudden, I get baptized. I'm now in the Word. I'm following the Word. I love my pastor. I love my church. I love my Bible study teacher. I sign up with a mentor for counseling and coaching and guidance. And I get baptized. No plan of ever getting baptized ever. And then we break up, devastated, and not knowing what happened, who am I, what. So, and then that evolves to the point that I start the podcast after I get baptized. I get a new position because I was a language arts teacher. Now I'm the tech teacher based on all of that experience of side hustling, building my website, knowing coding, business marketing. So I'm teaching a business class now and a tech class that I didn't foresee because I'm such a good language arts teacher with really great scores and really great. I said, my principal's not going to give me that job. Guess what? Principal says, I value you. I'm going to give you that position. I was like, and we put it in prayer. And I was like, okay. I was like, are you sure you're not going to take it back? Once you think about it. He's like, no, he was sure. So I started in one form, which then goes to the form of now that our story, we're living within our story, and God has always been there in our story. When you're in the middle of the story, you think, God's not here. I'm too broken. I'm not good enough. I'm this, I'm that. And God doesn't see that. If we read his book, if we read what he says about us, if we read what has happened to so many other people, he's always been there. And the plan has always been there. The vision has always been there. It's just us if we're going to follow that vision. So that's why story is so important to me. And I try to the vision is for my podcast, for my writing, is to help women understand that God has never left you in the middle of your story. He's there.
There's a beautiful through line that I'm seeing in what you guys have shared so far, and that Meg perfectly pointed out after Kacy's share is the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, I was so stuck in just this moment that I was missing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And it's so true that we're playing we're playing a part that leads to something else for ourselves, but also for the generations that come after us and through us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's like the grand and probably emotional feeling that I have to this question of the vision you continue choosing, because it's not about where you are, but what's coming from it, and from the willingness for it to take till 65, till 30, till 52, whatever, but to just stay in that long story. The Bible happens over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Like in Old Testament, they were living for multiple centuries, right? So when we think about our vision, let's remember from the stories that are being shared here that we're living through a part of it, and it is evolving. And the current of it is the feeling that is coming. Like in everything that you shared, Tennille, it's the feeling of pursuing a love that you have, and of always finding your way back to that, as well as being pulled forward by it. And that beautiful result of what you were building alongside of where you were produced a new result after. Right? So I've used a metaphor or an analogy of our life as a puzzle, and we're filling it in. Each day is a piece, and we have a feeling of what it kind of looks like, but we can't see, we don't have the cover of the box, right? But we're building it, and there's all kinds of different elements and stories being captured in that. And that's how and why we keep going. I could have stopped so many times. Sometimes it's still, I can't. I can't. Like I just can't. I can't stop. But what I don't care about anymore is how long it takes. That's been the most breaking free freedom that I've ever been able to achieve. Don't care how long it takes. I don't want $5 million a month. I want a few thousand. And I want the peace and freedom that comes with living in my true self and in my alignment, right? And in my purpose.
You
So
know
when
what?
we,
I just want to say something, Mia, because I realized I'm like, well, this is a conversational podcast, so we could
yeah,
just jump in, right?
yeah,
But like, so what you said to Neil and Mia, what you're alluding to, I think of what Steve Jobs said. He's like, you can only connect the dots looking backward,
yeah,
right? You have no idea how things are going to work out, why this happened, why that happened, but you look back, you're like, oh, this makes sense now, right? But in the moment, we have no idea. And then there's, oh, you, you got
no,
something
go
to say?
finish,
Well,
finish.
what I was going to say is there's another analogy that comes to mind, or like an exercise that I learned while I was doing a lot of personal development work in my 20s. And there was this thing that the instructor was like, okay, chocolate or vanilla, choose. And someone up on stage was like, I choose chocolate. Or they would say, I choose vanilla. And it's like, well, why? And then they would give all these reasons. They're like, well, I choose vanilla because it's tasty and blah, blah. And the instructor would ask the question again and again and again until the answer was, I choose chocolate because I choose chocolate.
Mhm.
Or I choose vanilla because I choose vanilla. And ultimately, like, while you guys were speaking, I'm like, choice. It's not about the circumstance, right? It's not, well, I today choose to work on my business because I'm making a lot of money. Well, what about tomorrow? What about when you're in deficit? What about when you're dealing with a breakup or it's hard or you can't write or you can't? Do you still choose it? Do you still choose to hold that vision? And to just like wrap up what I was saying, it's like, well, I choose the vision because I choose the vision. And that's what I've been hearing. And I'm excited to hear from Coach Paula too, but I'm sure that it's aligned because of course this is like divine timing right here. But it's just the power of choice that I'm seeing from all of us here, and that the power to not just choose when it's easy, but choose when it's really effing hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Had the impulse to swear, but
Yes.
just keep choosing. Yeah.
Yes, hindsight is 2020, but spiritual calling can start to pull you above that. And now when I listen to your stories of what was, you can start to see what else could there be. And so now the vision can hold you in pulling you forward because you're starting to see what's possible as life reveals itself. Right. And that's where the feeling of what the puzzle looks like at the end comes from and holds you forward. So I'll quickly just jump in and finish my thought on this and then give it to Coach Paula and Meg. And then we'll probably just do one more question. Circle up. No problem. But the vision for me is when I'm dying, when I'm about to go into heaven, looking back, I want to know that I did the things that I wanted to do. And that it wasn't about a return on investment metric, but that it was about the freedom of having really been all that I can be. This podcast, is it going to make me $10,000? Don't know, don't care. What matters is that it's happening and that it's real and that other women are here, part of it, breathing life into it. That's what keeps me going in the vision, is how real it is, even if it's not so-called finished or so-called rich or whatever. It has something so much greater that I can't necessarily see or predict, but I know is ahead. And that's what keeps me in the game and keeps me like convicted beyond. This one woman I've been meeting with for 3 years, she's sort of like, I don't know, keep going, not keep going. And I'm like, I just can't even imagine not. It doesn't exist as a reality. Now we'll see what God's got in the future and if he's laughing at me right now, but I can feel that from what feels like a deeper place and a longer timeline than the spot that I'm in right now.
Well, Mia, that was also about my email today or that I sent to you. I'm like, you're still at it. Like you're still in the game, right? It's so profound to step away and like do my own thing and be living life and then come back online and social media after years. And I'm like, this woman is still at it relentlessly. And she has 10x the energy now than she did before. And I thought she had a lot of energy then. So it was just so incredible because it's like, well, she still has a space and I can still show up in that space and still grow together, even though it doesn't look the same, but she's still here holding the vision, holding the space. And that's why I think I was so pulled to be here today because of you holding your vision and continuing to actually show up. So thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
and going along with the energy is like when you really do have a vision that you are holding on to, you have energy because that vision it's a drive, it's a motivator, it's exciting, it's a passion, it's got so many things under it that keep us going. So it is really important to have a vision. And as I said before, I'm very inspired and grateful that you all don't have to wait quite as long as I did. Yet, yes, at the same time, nothing's lost in God's economy. I had to go through what I had to go through to be prepared now for what God is revealing to me, and having God given me this vision. Without everything that I've been gone through, I wouldn't be ready for it. It wouldn't be able to flourish the way that God wants it to flourish. And while I wouldn't want anyone else to go through what I've been going through, At the same time, I'm very aware that God takes us through refining. God takes us through, trimming off the excess. God takes us through all of those things for beautiful, amazing, loving reasons that we won't really be able to fully fathom. And that's part of faith, just holding on to that.
Beautiful. All right. Meg and Paula. The vision you continue choosing even while living a very full, very real life.
Do you want to go, Miss Paula?
I can go. I can wait. Are you ready?
Why don't you
I
take
can
it,
go.
Paula? She gave it to you. We're
Yeah.
gonna give it to Paula, and then we'll close with Meg.
Okay. Yeah, so first of all, for those of you that don't know, I'm Paula. I'm a former teacher, and I have been coaching since 2012. Not all full time. I actually did it part time, off and on, off and on, off and on, and went full time in 2021. And my vision at that point became crystal clear. Before that, the reason it was off and on is because I had glimmers, right? I had little flickers of light. But in 2021, it became absolutely crystal clear. And I realized then that I had a purpose from God. And I essentially had a duty to myself, to my family, and to God to teach the things that He wanted me to learn. They were hard lessons that I went through as a young mom and an entrepreneur. And I will say that the biggest takeaway that I've had from all of that has to do with being willing to be willing, and the power of the pivot. And I like talking about that because what I have learned very recently in life is that, as the phrase from Forrest Gump goes, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Yeah, that absolutely happens to each and every one of us in one way or another. And mine happened health things over and over and over and over. And it's funny because I started off as a life coach and then I later got certified as a health coach, and it never there were times early on where I questioned which way am I supposed to go? And it's never been clear, and before, since 2021, that it is both. And God showed me that it is a healthy living coach, healthy living life balance. It's all of it. But putting health at the center. And it's healthy in the body and in the mind and in the spirit and all of that. And so what I have learned the last, I would say, 6 months in the power of the pivot is that I think as we age and mature, we realize, like you guys said, connecting the dots that are behind us, we can see retrospectively what we were supposed to learn all along. And we just were not at that time or that place, in that space in time. And once we get to that space in time, it's easier and clearer to see. And in that moment, we have a choice and we have the ability to decide which direction do we go in. And that's where the power of the pivot comes, in that we are always presented choice and we are always given an opportunity to do one way or another way, or sometimes multiple ways, right? And I think as we mature, we start to see fewer and fewer choices, right? And we have learned from mistakes. We know what we're supposed to be doing. We take our strengths, we take our weaknesses, and we kind of go in a path forward. And for me, it's always been health related. But up until about 6 months ago, having to go through, we went through family history of cancer, both sides of my family, to then my husband's, and then mine just being melanoma. And all of that to say, like, when you go through those kinds of experiences, you can either take good from them and apply it and, continue forward, or you can, essentially be stuck and say, this is horrible. How could this happen to me? What am I supposed to do now? All of those things. And I always chose to find the lessons. I'm sure the teacher in me. What can I learn from this? And so my takeaway has recently been, how can I best use this to move forward, to harnessing this need to pivot, right? How can I use this for my good? Whether to learn from, whether to teach others from, or whether to grow from, right? Like to not just learn, like give back, give back. So I try to do everything from, one of those kinds of perspectives. And my favorite realization recently has literally been just be, like, just be present, just be willing, be open. We never know what's going to happen. We never know the direction. And like one of you said, just as soon as you say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore, that's exactly when it comes back and you are doing it again. Right? You're reinventing it, you're doing it in a different way, you're putting a new like label on it, but it's the same thing. I believe that God does that on purpose. He's telling us this is and was meant for you. You just need to, adapt it and pivot, and use that as a strength to go forward, and you'll get closer to that, like, I don't know. Well, in the book, I call it glory zone.
Yes.
It gets you closer to the glory zone.
It's
And
the
when you
thread,
realize
like,
that,
pulling you through life,
Yes.
right? The vision
Yes.
is the thread pull. If you're
exactly.
entrepreneurially inclined, or even if you have like something you want to do in your local community, or a harmony to restore in your inner circle, the vision is the thread that's pulling you through. It's like a constant through all these other life experiences. And so that's a really beautiful gift from God as a stabilizing current to lean on, right? Kind of predictable, kind of steady, always there, and wanting for your heart to feel fulfilled and well used in your composition. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
that
Paula,
confirmation is amazing,
yeah. So I'll give it over to Meg now, if that's okay, Paula, and then we'll be able to just kind of give a social share for ourselves here near the top.
So all of your visions, by the way, are just beautiful. Like I'm right there with Sherry. Like I'm just in awe of like today's meeting. It's just been gorgeous. But I did share a little bit. My vision really is helping women see that there's freedom on the other side of healing. And looking back, like I've been a registered nurse for almost 26 years now. And I have not been practicing as a nurse for the past year and a half. I've been coaching full time. But throughout that process, I also taught in a nursing program. So I'm a former teacher. I taught in a college program for 8 years. And but the whole way through that, it was really trying to help people find that transformation they were looking for, right? Whether I was helping them heal as a nurse, I was helping them become nurses and like change their life because they were gaining a career. And I taught in a junior college. So there was a lot of women, they were coming back, they've raised their kids, they'd done the things, and now they were going back to nursing school. And so it was a really, it was a beautiful process to watch as they were sort of rebirthing themselves in that process as well. And but somewhere along the way, I kind of like lost that vision, right? Like we talked about, I went And I was like, oh, I'm going to be the boss. I'm going to do this. I'm going to climb the corporate ladder. I'm going to take the promotion. I'm going to do all these things, and got so far away from actually helping people. Right. I was in administration. I was running meetings. I was, I wasn't, I haven't touched a patient in years as a nurse. And in 2020, I slipped. I broke my hip. I was hospitalized a few months later in liver failure from alcoholism. And all of that, when I came out, God refreshed that vision, right? And like Paula, I became a health coach because I had healed my body and had learned all of this stuff. And I was like, I have to go help other women heal. And this past year and a half, he has had me pivot into more of a ministry type role and different type of coaching, but with the understanding that it's all still freedom on the other side of healing. Whether I'm helping them heal their bodies or their hearts or just leading them to Jesus so he can do all of it, it's all still helping women realize, like you were saying to Neil, your story is not over. Right? Your past doesn't disqualify you. Your past doesn't make things wrong or whatever. He's been there the whole time. Your story isn't over. And if you just say yes to him and to his vision that he has for you, like you're going to be part of that ripple effect and that generational change and the stuff. Like Mia, you were saying, like we don't see all of those dots. And I firmly believe it's none of my business who gets touched in my coaching, right? Like in my message, if somebody watches a podcast, somebody does whatever, that's not my business. That's God's business. Simply to be obedient to what he has asked me to do. And I may not know who all gets touched by it or who gets helped or who he changes their life because they watched this episode today.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Somebody out there is going to be touched and is going to be changed. And we may never know who that is. But our vision was we were all obedient to do what he asked us to do and to follow that vision. Somebody's life is going to be changed, which is going to have a ripple effect, just like you were talking about, Tennille, in the Bible stories, right? Like Rahab and Esther and all these women who said yes to the vision he gave them. It wasn't just their lives that changed, right? It was generation upon generation of people's lives that got changed because of their obedience. And so that is like a huge part of my vision is if I can be obedient, like, and what happens down the road, that's not my business, but I know that something good is going to happen because I said yes to what he told me to do.
That is such a, let's see if I can get this out, because in listening to you, I'm building the summit series and I'm like, I don't really know why, but I know that I have to build it. I just know that I have to build it. And that the how it gets used being none of our business kind of gives us some freedom, to play and create without being attached to a certain outcome, without pressuring something to be giving something back to us. And the trip to Africa was an incredible blessing as a result of starting a podcast in the back of my car. Putting this summit series together is an incredible blessing because of the women and conversations and how it's going to exist in the future as well as existing now, right? And perfectly timed with this is the 6th and last in this series is due for November. And it's about the everyday woman rises. And this is where I step back and invite women to come in and take over and run it, planting the seed towards the future. So the vision is, is something that carries us, right? And it holds us as we go through life. And the big theme here in all these beautiful stories hasn't been a destination. It's been walking out the journey to find out what's next and what's next and what's next, while also finding out more or remembering more of who we really are and honoring that woman and that spirit, no matter what life's throwing at us. So, Meg, if you're okay, there's some nice closing words that help kind of capture the theme of this, which, you know, everybody, listeners and beautiful women here with me today, this didn't go according to the overview sheet. We did one question. And that's totally okay, right? The vision lives in of itself, and we get to be part of it, even though it's our journey, our story. And in all of this, I've seen all of you beautiful women not waiting for life to begin, but carrying yourself and carrying your future in your very real day-to-day life. And this is where one of my many commercial jingles has come from, is be the woman that you're waiting for now. Be her now. You're not, I was waiting to get to a destination for something to happen, but instead it's happening every day, like we've all touched upon in various reflections and revelations in this conversation. So as a listener, I command you to answer some of these questions. I'll put them in the show notes, ones that we didn't get to as well. Answer one or two of them and take yourself into that deeper space and share it back with us, on Facebook, on YouTube. I don't know if you can comment. You can leave reviews on podcast players. So you could leave an answer as a review there. And let us see you and witness you and breathe life into you so that it's real. Because if you're holding a vision inside quietly, it'll get shook out of you. And it might be nicer to just kind of timidly and tentatively put it out there before that happens. Because holding the vision is clearly not about certainty. None of us were certain about the circumstances that we've ended up in, but we've had faith in the unseen, and we're choosing not out of performance or perfection, but in desire. We're choosing our dreams with patience, with love, and we're waking up every day, or as I jokingly say, okay, most days, inside our ordinary life and say, I'm still choosing this, but it's still choosing me too, right? It's this beautiful cycle together that leads us forward. Yeah, so let's go around the room in closing then and share where folks can come and find you on your website or social media or wherever you're kind of advertising, making yourself visible, so that if they want to walk more closely with you, they have opportunity to do that. And yes, of course, it'll all be in the episode description too. All right, everything's at Powerful Link.
I was like,
okay?
who's going first?
I'll go first. PLWHERFULLINC. It's all there.
Oh, no, Tennille, you go.
No.
No, you go.
Well, again, thank you for having us. It's such a blessing to be in this conversation. And every time you were talking, I was like, just going back to the Bible, Jonah didn't listen to his message, try to run away, and guess what? He was still found. So your vision is going to find you, because God's plan needs to be completed, whether you're there or not. And one final thing before I share. I always get that. I go to a Spanish church, so sometimes I'll say something and the accent is off, but is it Habakkuk or Habakkuk?
Yeah.
2:2. Write the vision and write it plainly. And
Yes.
you just write it, and if God says it, so it's gonna be. And that's the final message I want to leave for those that are listening. Don't be afraid of that vision. And those of you that want to follow me, listen to my podcast. It's not the Living Story podcast. You can find me on any podcast player, just like my students found me, and Spotify, and left me messages and fan mail. They're lovely. I love them. I do. I do. I say that jokingly, but I do. If you want to read my writing, it's middle of the story .substack.com. You can find me there. And on Instagram, I'm Living Story Podcast. You can find me there. I've been doing a morning devotional for the summer, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and 8 a.m. in a summer where I can just sleep in. I decided, no, because you got to be obedient to the calling. So doing that, and also have a Bible study coming up next Wednesday. So anyone interested in joining that, feel free. You don't have to sit through the entire series, but because each Bible study has its own focus. So, and that's me.
Thank you.
Love that. I love how organized you are, Tennille, with all of your, it's like everything is so clearly synonymous across the channels.
Yes.
On the other hand, for me, like I shared, I'm like totally just getting back into the game. So I mean, you can go on my Facebook, but I haven't posted in like 2 years. But I'm there. That's where I saw Mia. So you can find me on Facebook. I also started doing a little bit on LinkedIn. And Mia's gonna share the links. I don't remember the handles. Mom brain. I'm like surviving
Okay.
on like 3 hours of sleep. I didn't understand how people did that. And now I'm like, wow, it is totally possible. Hard, but possible. So I commend all of you moms, even people who like just all of you, mom or not, just
Yeah.
amazing. The thing that I want to just share in closing is that like at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And you don't know how things are going to show up or they're not. You just have to, as the theme has been interwoven through this conversation, is just follow the vision, trust God, surrender. Whatever God looks like to you. And that's something that I'm really like adamant about is I think that like your relationship, whether it's with Jesus, the Bible, spirituality, however that looks, it's like there is something working in your life, however you want to call that, right? For some of us, it was like Jesus showed up sooner, for some later. However that works, it's not like the be all end all to your connection to spirit. And I think ultimately, just listening and being guided, whether you understand it or not, is the key. And that's going to guide your vision day in and day out. And like I shared, right? I showed up on Facebook, saw this posting, and showed up here. I listened to God. We traveled across the country. I got pregnant, and now I have a 5 month old. Like these are things that I could never have planned for. And I feel like even these connections here today couldn't have planned for it. So the best thing is just to like listen, even when it seems uncomfortable, especially when it seems uncomfortable and confusing. It's like those are the times when we need to trust and surrender deeper. So.
Because they contribute to your vision coming into
Yes,
fruition.
absolutely.
Leaving your
Absolutely.
family to move 2 provinces over to start your, like, was not part of the vision, but yet those moves led you to it, right? So where are we, not seeing the path to the vision and staying open along the way? Yeah, beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
Well, I'm Sherry McClurkin, and I would love to I love having deep conversations about whether you're considering estrangement or in estrangement, what that has done to you, what you've been through, what all the deeper, bigger questions that comes up because of that. I mean, because your foundation, I mean, somebody used the word shattered earlier. That is a word I use with it too, because that's real and it brings up just huge questions. And there is a way through. You can thrive whether you're in estrangement or not. It's really not about repairing that relationship. If the relationship becomes repaired and that's what you want, that's beautiful. But it doesn't have to be for you to thrive. And when it comes to vision, getting back on that topic, it is okay to not have a vision. It is still about, because you don't know what you don't know. I've had to learn that the hard way. As a recovering perfectionist, I felt like I had to know everything and figure out everything on my own. And that is just not it. Just do not do it in isolation. Have a healthy community around you. Talk about what's on your heart. Don't harbor it here. Talk about it. Let it out. Let other people, wise counsel speak into you. That's how your vision will become clear over time and take shape, and you will find your way. But thankfully, I have a fairly unique name, so everything is under my name. So Facebook, it's Sherry.McClurkin is how Facebook did my handle, but it's my name. My website is my name, SherryMcClurkin.com. On Instagram and YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. Both of them are Sherry McClurkin MS. That to make that unique, and that's where you can find me. I'd love to have these. I'd love to have that conversation to help you walk along the way.
Yeah, and I watched Sherry's first video on her YouTube, and it just like cracked my heart so wide open. It's just beautiful to have to be extremely honest and frank with what's going on, because I haven't experienced enough of that in the places I've been hanging out, which is why I'm creating my own spaces for those kinds of conversations.
Right. Thank you.
So I am also on Facebook and Instagram. My Facebook is under Meg Harkins, and my Instagram is at Coach Meg Harkins. And just thank you, Mia. Thank you for your obedience, for following your heart, for your ability to gather like such beautiful women. Every single time I've done a summit with you, there is just you just attract like the most beautiful souls. So I'm so grateful to have gotten to meet all of you here today. And just one thing that Kacy, it's just on my heart to share. And Sherry was talking about estrangement and all of the things. Tennille had mentioned like some Bible stories for your story, but the story of Joseph is popping up, right? It was a long time that he was estranged from that family to come back and have everything situated. So just don't lose faith that God's capable of doing anything and healing everything, right? So,
Absolutely.
but the story of there's a verse I did a live in Paula's group the other day about it as well, for Zechariah 4:9, and he's talking about I can't say the name, Zerubbabel is building the temple, right? But it says he laid the foundation, he will also see it to completion, right? Not because of us, not because of our might or our power, but by his spirit. So if he's calling you, if he's put this vision on your heart, Mia, you were talking about timelines, you're not worried how long it's going to take. If he's put it in your heart, he's going to see it to fruition, right? It might not be tomorrow, but he is going to make it happen as long as we continue the path.
Yeah, that completes the thought I had when you spoke previously. The summit series, like I know I have to build it, and I don't know why, but I just know I have to build it. So I'm building it. 2 years. Started at the beginning of 2025. We're closing out 2026, one every 4 months. Yeah. And like the previous versions, I had tons of speakers. I'm just going to recall it quickly. Like I interviewed in the first 2 rounds, and then I was like, this is mental. You guys interview each other and give me the recordings. And then I was like, well, let's just all get together. So when time comes for November, I'll put the call out October-ish. But it's going to be time for you guys, any one of you that are here, any one of you that are listening, to come forward and say, hey, I want to be part of the 6th and final one, because that's like the culmination and like the releasing of it all as it goes out. And we'll see where it goes, right? That's in the future, but I know it's meant to be built now, and that's what we're doing. Okay, and then Paula. So Paula and I hang out in the collective together. That's her Facebook group. Meg's in and out of there too. Faith-based female entrepreneurs, where we talk life, business, heart, friendship, and collaborations is a big piece of both of our hearts. Paula won the North American Christian Women's Entrepreneur Association's Collaborator of the Year Award.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, she's massive. She helped curate this beautiful book with 6 of us all together. Meg and I are in there too. So yeah, she's a mover and a shaker, and a good one to hang out with. And then I'll just share for you. You can find her at Coach Paula on Facebook and Instagram.
Go for it, girl.
Come join us in the Facebook group and hang out.
Yeah. No, I would love to have you guys in the phenomenal collective. It would be great. I'm always looking to highlight other entrepreneurs, whether it, is any end of the spectrum, really, brand new to experienced to, side hustles, all the things. Yeah, and I'm on Facebook, Paula Tobey, Instagram at Paula Tobey. Yeah, I'm all over as well.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Praise the Lord for bringing us here together, and for giving me, like, I just get to be the one who does the thing, but it's meaningless if you guys don't come. So thank you. And
thank you for the clarification, Sherry.
I look forward to ongoing and continuing our friendships together. So have an incredible day, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank
Blessing.
you.
Thank you.